Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be deliberating on a very important topic, that is election. As we know, it is election year. We held elections in Pakistan on 8th of February. Now it's on India, one of the world's biggest democracies, to hold elections, and the election process is underway at the moment. It's the third phase of these elections that are being carried out, and we've seen different aspects of these elections. We also saw how the elections were transpiring. We saw there's a grand alliance that is formed. It's called India, which is being led by the Congress party. Along with that, we see the BJP in its form, with its anti-Pakistan and anti-Muslim rhetoric. As we know, as soon as elections start nearing, the BJP goes on with their narrative, their Hindutva policies. Now, on the one side, there's the BJP with its anti-Muslim, anti-Pakistan narrative. On the other side, there's the Congress and the grand alliance that is being led by the Congress party. Now, if we talk about the phase 3 of the elections and who votes in these elections, in the phase 3 of these elections, the states of Karnataka, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Assam, Goa, Bihar, West Bengal and some other states. And most of these states were earlier governed by the BJP, and now we saw that in regards to the election campaigns, there was the inauguration of the Ram Mandir by the BJP. Along with that, there was the Citizenship Amendment Act, and there were also anti-Muslim slogans and anti-Muslim comments made in the recent speeches by the BJP. And there was also a video on social media that was spiraling that was very racist and discriminatory towards the minority segments and marginalized segments in India, specifically the Muslim community. Now we'll be talking about these different aspects of the third phase of elections in India. There's also some recent surveys that have regarding these elections and the election campaigns. The recent surveys say that the politics and the political leaders and the parties, they should address issues of youth, farmers and marginalized communities rather than spreading religious divides. Now we'll be deliberating on all these different elements regarding to the third phase of the elections. We'll be talking with the senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi, who has joined us in the studios. Along with that, we've been joined by Faisal, who is a geopolitical analyst, and on Skype we've been joined by our guest Aditya, Bharat, who is an advocate of the Indian Supreme Court. Thank you all for your time and joining us and being part of the conversation. I'd like to start our conversation from Mr. Aditya Bharat, Advocate Aditya Bharat, and ask him what he thinks. On the one hand, we see there's the BJP narrative, there's the Hindutva ideology, and on the other side, there's the Congress and the Grand India Alliance, which is talking about preserving the secular and democratic essence of the Indian Constitution. What would you comment about that, the whole political situation that we're seeing in India?
Thank you for having me. First and foremost, this is an election not about secularism. India is a secular country. It is enshrined in our constitution, and that does not change. One election here and there doesn't make that difference. The ruling party is secular, the opposition parties are secular, so that is not the real debate here. The real debate is economic policy, the real debate is India's internal domestic issues, the way India has navigated through the current turmoil in the global economy, global crisis. India has deftly handled that. So those are real issues which are here in the election. Beyond this, I think it's only speculation and it is only rhetoric of foreign nations in interpreting the Indian Lok Sabha elections. So that's about it. It is just an Indian internal election, and my understanding is Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be coming back with a thumping majority for the third term.
Yeah, Aditya, while hearing you, the very first sentence, obviously, of course, you blamed us of enchanting about that India is not secular, it is changing itself, and of course, we are maintaining here that BJP, of course, it is backed by RSS ideology, and if we look at the track record of BJP, the kind of hatred they have been spewing against the Muslims and the other minorities in the country, their politics, of course, it can never be considered as secular. They do not promote secularism. That is why they, talk about the Akhand Bharat. They talk about sort of the ideologies in which they want to change the country's name. So don't you think, being a lawyer, all of these things when they promote these things and propagate these things, BJP, do you still see them as a secular party, knowing the facts that the seat allocations and the party memberships they are giving out, there are very less number of the minorities, and if we talk about the Muslims are nowhere to be seen.
Elections are seat allocation and elections are done on the basis of winnability. Number one. Number two, overarchingly, India is a secular country that is enshrined in our constitution. The Supreme Court of India has also thumpingly ruled in that favor. No change has been done in the constitutional framework in the last 10 years. If anything, minorities have been empowered, is what I would say. Naturally, you would disagree on that. India has a Supreme Court judge who is from the minority community. Minorities are very well represented in all walks of life. India has elected obscene number of times multiple Muslim members of parliament. And moreover, India does not need to justify its secularism before an openly Islamic republic. So we have our secularism, which we have maintained since such a long time, and we are not here standing trial.
I'm sorry to cut you, Aditya, but why is it instinctive in your nature that you have to always start a good discussion by dumping on Pakistan? Why can't you actually realize that there is a question as a student of history or politics that we are asking this question?
Let's talk about history. Let's talk about issues. Let's have an issue.
Do you think that we are representing the political party of the country, or are we a journalist? If we are journalists, why can't you treat us like equals rather than dunking on Pakistan all the time?
I am not targeting Pakistan. I am having a very simple point here, that this is an internal Indian election running on internal domestic issues, and that's about it.
Stop talking about it, right? If India is going to vote, we should turn our backs, shut our eyes and close our ears and then pretend nothing is happening. Is that what you are saying?
I am saying something very simple, that this is a domestic election having domestic issues. Secularism is not on the ballot paper here.
So we can't talk about it.
It's elections and they're discussed all over the world in different parts.
Aditya, very recently, statements coming from people like Amit Shah and Modi himself in the sermons they've been delivering, obviously, to the people in the election rallies. They have been using a word called, Ghusbatia. Who do you think they are referring to?
It is definitely not for any Indian citizen. An Indian citizen includes everyone from all religions. If there is any Ghuspetia which
are they not referring to Muslims of India? And if they are, do you think that Muslims of India are not equal citizens of India?
I have never said that, sir. I have said that an intruder is someone who is not a citizen of India, and all people who are in the country of India, be it from any religion, Hindu, Muslim, anyone, are equal citizens of this country. Number one. Number two, the secularism of India is not subject to trial before Pakistan, at least.
Right, okay. That means that you can get away with whatever you want. We can't ask any questions.
You're a good lawyer.
But no, not a good lawyer. I'm sorry. This is just being rude to the audience that you're talking to. But my question is, when Modi ji says that Congress party is going to take away Arakshan, that is reservation from the OBCs, and hand it over to Ghusbatia, does that mean that he's referring to some outsiders? Or is it about some Indian citizens that you want to talk about?
The reservation policy in itself is a multi-layered policy. OBC is a section of is a social section in India. If there are any attempts made towards whittling that down and bringing other sections of the society, then that can be also construed to be Ghuspetia. Everything is not
Ghuspetia. What did he mean by Ghuspetia?
The question here is, what would you term an intruder if not someone from within India?
OBC, I repeat for your clarification, that OBC is a social group in India, and the reservation meant for OBCs is supposed to be availed by OBCs and not by any other social group. That's about it. This is not
Which social group is Modi ji talking about when he says that Arakshan is going to be given to intruders and the people who make more babies?
And whether these intruders are Indian voters or not?
I repeat, OBC is a social group. In that social group, that reservation
About
is
OBCs, we are
dedicated-
talking about the other category that you were talking. You were saying that he cannot refer to any Indian citizen as an intruder. So who did he mean by intruders?
Anyone availing the reservation benefit dedicated for the OBC section is an intruder. That's about it. There is nothing more to read in this. So if there is a reservation
the
meant
Muslims of India.
for example, if there is a reservation meant for a disabled section of the society, if that reservation is given to anyone apart from the disabled section of the society, that person who are the disabled section.
Again, you talk about the definition of OBCs, but you should also talk about the defining what they termed as an intruder, because we're not being able to get your viewpoint on that.
Or for that matter, baby
OBC is
makers.
other backward. OBC is other backward sections of the society. That is a specific dedicated social group. There is a specific dedicated reservation policy for that social group. Anyone availing that reservation who is not an OBC is an intruder. That's about it. That can include anyone.
So
There are multiple.
hang on. So right now you are saying that when he was referring to, he was talking about certain Indians who might be intruders in the reservation. Earlier you just told us that he could not mean by intruder any citizen of India. So my dear lawyer, could you actually stick to one position?
No, your initial question was not around the OBC reservation point. If you're talking on the OBC reservation point, I have only one principal position, which is the position of any reasonable lawyer, which is simple. OBC reservation
Who
is
are the baby makers in India?
We have multiple social groupings.
When India's Prime Minister actually talks about baby makers, it is usually thought to be a dog whistle surrounding Muslims. What did he mean by that? Do you think that it was not about Muslims?
I don't think so. Are Muslims the only one who make babies? I mean, this is a very far-fetched understanding of some statement made.
Have you been watching your own channel, sir? Have you been following your own news, sir?
And your newspapers as well. They've been highlighting the same thing.
And the elections as well there.
If you haven't been, then I believe you need to enlighten yourself day-to-day basis.
See, if you're expecting a one-pointed answer from me, then that's not going to happen. I'm holistically analyzing it and sharing my view. You may have your own view. We in our country have a free press. There are multitude of views which exist.
Aditya, problem is why you are trying to justify that BJP is a secular party, whereas from their, of course, sermons and from their speeches, they are openly claiming that they are Hindu Rashtra or Hindu the ideology, Hindutva ideology. They are following it, and they do not want any intruders, Ghusbaitiyas. They mean Muslims.
And by the
them,
way,
all of the Muslims,
hang on.
they are Ghusbaitiyas.
And
They don't want them.
by the way, just to refresh your memory, Aditya, just to refresh your memory, when the Prime Minister Modi, your secular Prime Minister, actually spoke about intruders, right, Ghusbaitiya, and then baby makers, he clarified it with a caveat that he meant Muslims. He also mentioned word Muslim. So this is some new kind of secularism, I hope, or assume that
Well, even if we
are talking about.
move on from that, there was a video that circulated on social media as well that clearly showed the animations. They clearly showed the targeted community seemed like the appearance, from their dressing, and overall they seemed like Muslims.
Yeah, they had the birds had beards,
And
right?
yes.
Yeah.
We are surrounded by Pakistan, we are surrounded by Bangladesh. They are admittedly Islamic countries. If there is any intruder from there, they are most likely, unless there is some exception, most likely to be a Muslim. Is there any doubt to that? But are the citizens of India who are Muslims intruders? No, definitely not. This is a secular country abiding by a secular constitution under a secular framework. And that has not changed in the past 10 years, and it will not change in the past 100 or past 1,000 years.
Yeah, can you Aditya clarify or explain what does it mean when BJP follows the policy of Ghar Wapsi? What do they mean by Ghar Wapsi?
Ghar Wapsi cannot be construed to be that way. What do you understand by Ghar Wapsi? Let me clarify your position rather. It would be better that way.
Yeah. What I believe is, if I was in India today, as I am someone whose name is Raja Faisal, and of course my ancestors, they've been Chandravanshi Rajput, Chib Rajput, and now of course it applies on me. If I was in India, they would have issued a policy for me that I should be following Ghar Wapsi policy.
No,
Isn't
absolutely.
it?
That is where, sir, you are wrong. That is where you are absolutely wrong. We have a secular constitution where there is freedom of religion. Freedom of religion also encompasses the right to propagate your religion, which exists for so many communities. Muslims, if we have a look on only statistical numbers, since 1947, have increased in number. Since 2014, since when Prime Minister Modi has come in, still Muslims population has increased. But that does give the freedom to people of all other religions, including Muslims, to propagate their religion. And if there is anyone who gets interested and wants to convert their religion, they are free to do that. That is also a hallmark of secularism.
There shouldn't be any policy that should be applied on them.
No, hang on. Aditya, let us actually, hang on. I think that we had a wrong start. With due respect, at the start when the question was asked, I thought you understood or misunderstood that India is under attack. We have no intention of attacking your country. Please you don't need to prove your Indianness to us, your patriotism to us. You don't need to even prove Hindutva to us. Whatever the choices, we can live with that, right? The only problem is that there was a pushback when you actually started attacking or telling us that because you are in certain way, I don't need to qualify. There is a reason why you are on this program. It is an open, free world, right? So hang on. The only thing is that we want to understand India's politics, and then please understand that if you think that by denying that India has a communal problem, or for that matter it has other problems as well, if everybody is going to start believing that, that is not going to happen. We also have many problems, but please let us be honest, right? Don't dunk at each other. Let us have discussion as equals, as normal human beings, rather than as rivals. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Obviously, that is what we are here for, sir.
Thank you very much. Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on, as we talked about the elections, we talked about how there's a grand alliance, and we talked about how on one side we see there's we see that there's religious divides and polarization. On the other side, we see there's a grand alliance that talks about economic development and social welfare. How would you differentiate between the two, and how do you think the voters are appeasing between the two?
The voters are I think one thing which is very clear about our democracy, our democratic setup, or for that matter of fact, any other democratic country, I think there is no one smarter than the voter. There may be opposition parties or ruling party, whichever party, politicians at large, who will come with a particular narrative. But what is happening at the ground level is for the people, and they understand that very clearly. So India is no different. There have been multitude of issues. Economy is the prime issue which is there currently. Definitely there is a global economic slowdown. Luckily, India has so far not been part of that slowdown story. Naturally, one thing which has happened in the past 10 years is income inequality has increased. Definitely it has increased. The rich have got richer, the poorer have got poorer. So those are issues which are at center stage, which are definitely being considered. Again, over and above this, there is a socialist and populist bent of politicians in our country. There are freebies which are given, free rice is given, free electricity is given. These are issues which definitely appeal to a certain section of the voters in India. But then, per contra, there are other voters who see that populism beyond a certain point does not help, and structural reforms are needed. I believe in the past 10 years, this is my personal opinion, there may be differing views, structural economic reforms have been made, at least an attempt has been made, and that direction has broadly been appreciated in this nation. Naturally, nothing is perfect, nothing is a foolproof system, and so is the case with both our countries, or maybe all of the countries in the subcontinent who have a colonial legacy, that we are all fighting years and years of servitude which we've all had under the British. And luckily, I feel that India is going past that bad colonial legacy. This is what I feel. This is my view. I am also a voter. There may be different voters having different perspectives.
Yeah, Aditya, if we obviously talk about the election campaigns that are being conducted and the speeches which are being made by Congress-led 24 political parties, it is apparent that they disagree with the BJP when BJP says that they have done, they have made improvement in terms of Indian economy, but they believe that Indian economy, we can say that few of the individuals, cherry-picked individuals that are aligned with the BJP, they have of course gained a lot out of this economy. But when we talk about the people at large, the masses at large, inflation, of course it is uncontrollable in India, and joblessness is at its peak, and the medical facilities, if we talk about the medicine prices, inflation has hit that side as well. Is it true, or we can say that BJP is doing all fine so far?
See, naturally, inflation is an issue which is across the globe. I mean, it is not an India-centric issue. Inflation is definitely there, and especially for country like ours. And here I say for even your country, my country, or neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, we heavily import oil from foreign nations. So a lot of our inflation is definitely linked with that oil-based inflation which happens globally. India is no different. India has been buying Russian oil recently. So that has recently Indian government has saved close to $7 billion of money. Having said that, see, the thing is that ultimately in a country like ours, it is the private sector which generates employment and growth. Having said that, there would be certain industrialists who would definitely gain an advantage. That advantage, it is hoped, is passed on to people at large by job creation, number one. So that has been definitely the talking point of the ruling party BJP. The opposition party disagrees.
Right, including Farrukh Pitafi in the conversation, as you followed the Indian elections very well, and we've seen a lot of developments. We also saw the electoral bond scandal. There were different developments that we've seen till now. We also saw that as the election started and with the campaign started, Modi's campaign started without the mention of Hindutva policies, and it focused more on economic development and social welfare. But we saw there was a shift back towards their original ideology. Pitafi, what's your views on that? Why do you think they had to resort to that ideology again?
Right. Thank you very much, Rafae. It will surprise you that my response, at least in one aspect, is in agreement with what Aditya was saying, and that India's current election is not about secularism.
Right.
There are far bigger issues involved, and I think that that is something that we all are interested in studying and understanding. For example, BJP has done in many aspects good things as well. For example, they are providing a ration, free ration, 5 kilos of ration to 80 crore people, right? Which is a huge number. That is a humongous contribution, and I think that that is good. Yes. The other one regarding improving the quality of life, especially in villages, bringing toilets there, trying to provide water. And in UP, where there used to be some difficulty for women to commute, they're actually providing some kind of security. That is part of the good side of the story. But India has 2-3 problems. One, earlier you were calling it, and Aditya was also calling it, inflation. What India, Pakistan, and most of South Asia is facing is not inflation, it is called stagflation. Stagflation is usually an inflation while commodities prices rise, jobs also are created. Unfortunately, India's numbers have been declining sharply and regularly. And you can actually attribute that to something else that is happening. Of course, when Manmohan Singh actually opened the economy, there was a rush of private companies or private enterprises that actually generated a lot of job creation, right? But that is not happening any longer. And now there is consolidation of a few billionaires. For example, we repeatedly, excuse me, hear about Adani and Ambani. And that mention has continued until yesterday. It was opposition that was bringing them up, because ultimately it seems everything is now being owned by Adani and Ambani, right? You go to ports, you go to airports, you go to cinemas, you go to films, you go to television, mobile services. No, I just wanted to qualify. I am sure that you will be equally patient with me as you are with others. But with all those aspects, it is thought that somehow Modi government and Ambani Adani had, because all are from Gujarat, they have had some kind of agreement that they are going to concede a lot of space to these billionaires who can then consolidate. Until yesterday, it was the opposition that was actually bringing up Adani and Ambani. Now, who has started mentioning them? It is Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister. Today, he accused of Adani Ambani of sending tempo fulls, that is, the small vehicle that carries people around, the tempos full of money, black money, illicit money, to Rahul Gandhi. Now, earlier, when at the start, Narendra Modi had actually started his campaign, you are right, he was talking about Viksit Bharat, he was talking about so many other things. But then somewhere somebody started saying, "Ab ki baar 400 par." And then his own followers actually started claiming that he wants to change the constitution. BJP is a part of Sangh Parivar. Sangh Parivar has an open position regarding the abolition or change of constitution. And then, of course, something very crucial that we mentioned at the start, and that is reservations. India has, because of the colonial rule that my friend from India actually mentioned, there is grinding poverty in certain segments. Dalits, then other backward classes, and then Mahapichhada, right? Ati Pichhada, that is EBCs, they together would form more than 50% of the country. So the constitution has provided, that was written by Dr. Ambedkar, a great man, that provided for reservations to the common man. Now these communities that would have actually voted for Narendra Modi otherwise, they are in this fear that constitution can be changed and Arakshan can be removed, that is essentially reservation. Because of that, there seems to be some kind of swing in votes. And then, of course, BJP is facing an anti-incumbency. After that, Narendra Modi actually came up with umpteen statements, which are quite interesting. For example, I told you that first he said that India Alliance, or Congress for that matter, is going to take your reservation and give it to Muslims. Then he did not stop at that. He said that they are going to come up with an X-ray machine and X-ray your houses and see whoever has gold or silver, and then he is going to take away most of it and give it to Muslims. That did not stop there. Then he said that if you have 2 buffaloes, they will take away 1 buffalo and give it to Muslims, right? And now he is talking about, because whatever he has been throwing at them, it is not sticking. Now he came up with turning the tables, accusing them of getting goose, that is rishwat or money, illicit money from Adani or Ambani. And one joke that I heard today, because usually Adani and Ambani are thought to be his own allies. Somebody from Congress today asked whether the Congress had taken away both the buffaloes, right, and included them in Congress, right? By that he, of course, meant the milching, buffaloes that are the 2 billionaires. But regardless, at this moment it seems that there is something crazy going on, which has unnerved Narendra Modi. That's why he is using all these divisive arguments, but they don't seem to be landing everywhere. I am not going to imply that Narendra Modi is losing, but there has been 2 or 3 things which are quite interesting. One, in all 3 phases that happened there, India is a big country, 97 crore people are voting or eligible to vote. It has 7 phases. A third concluded yesterday. In all 3, the voter turnout has been lower than before. And in most cases, wherever Narendra Modi or his party had loyal vote, the vote share has gone down. So people are assuming that there seems to be some kind of anti-incumbency. Add to it the fear of the Dalits and the OBCs and EBCs and others. And then, of course, when your Prime Minister is making Muslims a target, then there is going to be Muslim consolidation of vote. But in that situation, there is one great party called BSP, Bahujan Samaj Party of Mayawati, which was thought to be a spoiler on both sides because it is independent, it represents Dalits, and it had actually given ticket to people who could undermine or break votes from BJP. But then a kind of coup has happened, and BSP has removed many of those candidates and given offered candidates who are going to damage India alliance. So it is up in the air. It won't be over till the time election is over. But I don't know why Narendra Modi ji is getting insecure, and because of that he is trying to resort to the olden ways that he used. By the way, elections actually bring the best or the worst in people, and I think that it has brought forward the best in Congress, the best in, with the exception of Sam Pitroda, who made a gaffe today. But apart from that, their focus has been on providing relief to the common man on the street, and that is good. But then it has brought perhaps the worst out of BJP, which is actually making these statements.
Right, Raja Faisal, what's your views? What do you think, what caused Mr. Modi ji to go on the back foot, considering that he changed his, the ideology with which he was going into the election campaign? Do you think it could be the electoral bond case, or do you think there were other reasons regarding the politics of the country, the domestic politics, that made him shift his whole narrative for the campaign?
Yeah, of course, Rafae, if we look at the timeline of BJP's electoral campaign this time around, it started with, of course, Chandrayaan, and how they actually, explored or sent a mission to explore Chandrama moon. And I think it was a very good step by BJP itself, because it is a
not
big
BJP,
achievement.
India's achievement, not
India's
BJP's. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the electoral campaign, that they started it with that.
Okay.
So it was, of course, Indian achievement, and they highlighted it, and that's how it should be. If you have these kind of achievements, you should always be highlighting that. But one by one, of course, they went towards the economy, but then people, of course, or the opposition parties, they started talking about the Adanis and Ambanis and how they were, given a chance to make money or mint money. And of course, it's a factor of Indian oligarchs which is appearing, that is being promoted by BJP, and these were the phrases which were actually highlighted by the opposition parties. Then slowly they started getting towards, of course, Islam, Islamophobia. They started talking about the minorities, Muslims, and then eventually they started coming towards, which does not bother me at all, because they started coming towards the LOC and they started shouting that, oh, ghar mein ghus ke mara and all of that. And everyone knows that back in 2019, they did come inside Pakistan's borders. And by the way, I actually hail from, my village is right there where actually they intruded in, ghar mein ghuse. But then they were not let go free, and they were actually shot down there. And Abhinandan was exactly captured almost around 5 minutes from my own village. So I am sort of, or my village is sort of a witness to it. So this all happened. And for now, of course, why I've been earlier asking question about, Islamophobia, which is being sort of spewed by a BJP, because this is not only me who's highlighting these sort of questions or asking these questions. I'm talking about Congress and the other rest of the 23 parties. They are asking the same question. They have been asking the same question, and they are the ones who are actually fighting for, they claim that they are fighting for the secular constitution of India. They are claiming to be fighting for the secular India rather than a far right India, far right hardliner India, because they want to of course save India from getting into a sort of problem in which one of the mightiest minorities of India, that is Muslims, they are being targeted. And I mean, it's not me, Pakistan, who does it or talks about it. I mean, European Union talks about it, then rest of the world talks about, Western countries are talking about it, that there is a mindset in India that is dragging India from its secularism to sort of non-secular far right approach. This is what is taking
Hindu
place.
Rashtra.
And I, Rafae, I want to highlight your attention and my friend from India, Aditya's attention towards one of the statement which was made by Subramaniam Swamiji. He's one of the leaders of BJP. When he was asked about whether Muslims are equal citizens of India or not, he said no. Muslims are not considered as equal citizens of India. And I believe Aditya, being a lawyer from India, can further highlight this aspect of whether Muslims are equal citizens in India, in secular India or not. And if they are not, then it surely says that Indian constitution is not secular anymore. Reason being, if Indian secular, which is being interpreted by the leadership of BJP as being not considering Muslims as equal citizens of India, then of course it is not at all a secular constitution. And if it is not a secular constitution, then here ends the phenomenon which says that India is a secular country.
And just to include one thing, Rafae, once you have actually spoken to Aditya, I want to actually mention or discuss Subramanian Swamy as well, because he is also in news. But after he has
after Aditya.
Thank you.
Please go ahead, Aditya.
Aditya, your comments, please.
I just like to share a small part of my day today. Today I was briefed by a Muslim client before in the Supreme Court of India. I appeared before Justice Ehsanullah, who is a judge of the Indian Supreme Court. After me, there were after a couple of cases after my case was done, the central government, that is the Modi government, was represented by one Mr. Zoeb Hussain, who is a senior central government standing counsel at the Supreme Court and at the Delhi High Court. This is just, I'm not trying to make a point here. I'm just trying to say, I'm just sharing a small part of my day today, since we are talking today in the evening. So my point is this: there will definitely be voices from both sides of the ideological spectrum who will see things the other way around. If someone will accuse BJP of being anti-Muslim, someone will accuse the other so-called India Alliance to be pandering to Muslims. Now, however you see it, I can just talk one thing from a very practical, realistic point of view, that ultimately at the end of the day, for an average Indian citizen who wants food on his table, who wants to deal with this sweltering heat that India currently is because of the El Nino effect, they want food on the table, they want electricity, they want basic education for their kids. Whoever provides it, the vote will go for them. And that is the defining aspect of this election, and so has it been of many other elections. Now, if we go by our own statements, Ram Mandir was made. If Ram Mandir is made and Hindutva is a major selling point, then there is no need for any right-wing statements. But if there are right-wing statements, then did Ram Mandir succeed? So these are aspects which one must analyze, that are fringe statements, fringe sentences being taken misconstrued. Coming to the issue of low voter turnout, since one of my co-panelists said that, it is not to be assumed that the low voter turnout is a vote against BJP, pro-BJP, for Congress, against Congress. It is a very simple thing. Temperatures are 3 to 4 degrees higher right now than the previous Lok Sabha election. I think Pakistan itself is very well aware of the ill effects of climate change. We are all suffering from it. It sees no difference between India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Muslims, Hindus. Everyone is affected. That is naturally having an effect on the low water turnout. So these are aspects we must consider holistically.
Hang on. I totally get what you're saying, and I've been consuming Indian media, and of course there's this speculation about low turnout because of the weather. But this is a reality that occurs every election, right? And this is not for the first time that the weather might be harsh. So that is something that has to be remembered. But regarding the earlier point about Muslim, you're a BJP guy being your, a Muslim guy from BJP being your client, my question, sir, to you would be, how many, and off the top of your head, can you name one or two candidates that are Muslim and have been fielded by BJP? Because other parties might have, and BJP has done this clever thing of appointing many spokespersons or lawyers for that matter who are Muslims and who work for them. But any MP candidate that you can think of who is Muslim right now?
Before I come to this, one more point which you yourself mentioned, which I would like to respond to, about the Prime Minister's statement. You have not taken it in the right context. The sentence made by the Prime Minister regarding cows being taken or whatever you were saying about food being snatched and given to Muslims was in context of an earlier speech by the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, who said that minorities, and in particular he highlighted Muslims, have the first right to India's natural resources. This was the sentence which the Prime Minister made then. And I don't think there is anything wrong in rejecting that or having fear about it, because natural resources of India, for example, are everyone's rights. In fact, if anything, the better sentence would have been, it is the poor who have the first right and first right on the natural resources of India, not minorities. And that is something I stand by. Poor will include Hindus, poor will include Muslims. So if that sentence is being called out by the Prime Minister in his speech, it has to be seen it in that context only, and not in a broader perspective the way you were doing. Coming to your point about...
but he has been repeating the charge, sir. He has been repeating the charge repeatedly.
I'm not beating the bush. I'm coming to your point. I am trained to answer.
About you. I'm talking about the Prime Minister. You're not repeating.
About MP candidate selection. Almost 2/3 of the sitting MPs have been weeded out. That has been the pattern of Prime Minister Modi even when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. Elections are won on winnability factor beyond anything else. So there may be Brahmin dominated constituency where a Dalit has been given a ticket. Reason being simple, maybe the opposition parties have put multiple Brahmin candidates. So the Brahmin vote splits. The Dalit candidate has a larger chance because of Dalit consolidation. Similarly with Muslims, opposition parties and the India Alliance and other regional parties have tried to take advantage of the Muslim vote bank. Naturally, they will keep a Muslim candidate. So it would not be sound electionomics or sound political strategy to then play the narrative of the opposition. That is my understanding. Again, as I say, elections are won on winnability alone, nothing beyond that.
Aditya, Swamiji's statement.
I mean, I have no qualms with you seeing it differently.
Can you please explain the Swamiji's statement?
Dr. Swami's, Subramaniam Swami.
Yeah.
Subramaniam Swami is no spokesperson of the BJP. Subramaniam Swami does not lay down the ideology of BJP. And
fair enough.
No, in past, of course, he was part of BJP at that time.
BJP, so were many people part of Congress who are now in BJP, and many people from BJP were part of Congress. In Hindi, and I think you will understand it in Urdu also, we call them Chunavi Mendak, people who hobnob from one political party to the other, depending on which political party is likely to win. And the sentence of and coming to the sentence of Subramaniam Swami, it is highly condemnable sentence. It deserves to be condemned. It is one of the worst sentences somebody can speak. It is shameful, to say the least. Muslims are no second-class citizens of our country, and no one is, and they don't need a lawyer like me to defend them, nor do they need anyone's patronage. This right of being equal citizens of this country is given to them by the Constitution of India, and nothing less than that. So the constitution.
That is heartening to hear.
Yeah.
We know that we have a good man speaking to us. Thank you very much.
That,
for
that,
that.
that was very good.
Can I now actually
Well,
talk
with that,
about
unfortunately, for Pitafi, we're short on time. Advocate Aditya, Bharat, thank you for your time and
Thank
being
you,
part
Aditya.
of the show. And of course, we'd love to have you and have a conversation with you again regarding different aspects. With regard to what you were going to say, for Pitafi, if you would like to comment on the statement that you referred to. Well, with that, we're unfortunately short on time and we'll have to conclude today's show. We talked about the third phase of elections in India. And of course, we discussed the different aspects of that. We talked about the different narratives being played, and we talked about the different election campaigns that are being headed by both the sides. With that, we'll thank both our analysts, senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal, geopolitical analyst. And see you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.